We're blessed, as we have been throughout these series of briefings, to have with us Brigadier General Nuriel. And for those of you who are very familiar with General Nuriel, there's no way we can introduce a man of this substance, a man that has done so much for the United States, for Israel, and for the relationship between the US and Israel in protecting the free world. For those who have never heard General Nuriel, he, for many, many years, has played the role of coordination between the forces of Israel and the United States. There are a number of joint exercises that have taken place, first through the European Command, now through the Central Command, known as Juniper Falcon, Juniper Cobra, which are defense exercises, joint exercises, as well as Juniper Oak, which was a joint exercise in the event that there has to be an offensive attack against Iran. Things like what we observed in April, what we observed with the 188 ballistic missiles attacking Israel, things that took place yesterday, don't just come out of thin air. It comes out of decades and decades of preparation on an intelligence level, on an Air Force level, a naval level, ground force level. And the general that has been associated with that, who's created that relationship over the last number of decades, is General Nuriel. And we're incredibly blessed, we're humbled and honored that he today is going to be giving us an analysis, his assessment, and we'll have the chance to ask him. We'll have a chance to ask him how he perceives what's happening and where he sees it going. General, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, thank you for everything you are doing for us. We are very much appreciate that, and we are very much happy to have you in our side. I'm sure that many of our friends knows about what's going in our region, so I'll try to update you after the attack in Iran, and some more updates regarding Gaza Strip and Lebanon. But as the first topic, I would like to mention again that Israel are dealing with 9 fronts at the same time. It's Lebanon, it's Gaza Strip, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Yemen, Jordan, Samaria, the borderline between Israel and Jordan, which just last week we had an attack in Kikar Yarden, and unfortunately inside Israel. Those 9 fronts are, in a way, push all the limits of all the security agencies to provide better security to the Israeli citizens, and hoping to create better conditions for future agreements. We all know that any military campaign, by the end, will be finalized by an agreement, and I believe that we are creating better and better conditions for having better agreements. Let's start with Gaza Strip. The operation we are taking right now in the northern part of Gaza is about to make sure that Hamas will not be able to regain its power. As long as Hamas have enough money and enough young people who are happy or forced to be part of the Hamas fighters, we need to make sure that they will not be able to reorganize themselves. And yet, there are enough ammunition systems, and they are looking for opportunities to attack our units. Sometimes they succeed, and many times we succeed to defeat them. And yet, I cannot see the end of the operation behind the corner. It will take time. The fact that there is an American citizen civilian company that about to take responsibility for the humanitarian aid, it's a good step, but it's not enough. Humanitarian aid or providing food to the Gazan people, it's not the only issue on the table. As I said, we need to take care of the money that Hamas still has. We need to make sure that they are not recruiting another group of fighters, and therefore I believe that it will take time. The winter is also an element that we need to take under our consideration. The weather can affect the military operation. The weather probably affect the overall conditions of the citizens of Gaza. And all in all, the hostages are still there, and the mechanism that can come with solution is not behind the corner. The Egyptian, the Qatari, as well as the Americans, all of them are very much busy with their own business. And at that stage, I cannot see the mechanism that can come within a week or 2 weeks with kind of an agreement regarding the hostages. And therefore, the total victory is not so close. The total victory, if at all, it is not something that we can reach within weeks or even months. Regarding Lebanon, I'm a bit more optimist, because the voices we hear from Hezbollah is that they understood they are not going to win, they are losing many assets, and they are looking for kind of a ceasefire. And the big question is, does the preconditions regarding the ceasefire are acceptable by us? We do have list of requests, such as that the Lebanese will not come back to their villages before we can reach our people back to our villages. And it's a question of many weeks, because the houses and a lot of the infrastructure are destroyed and we need to rebuild them. Number two, we need to see massive Lebanese armed forces are deployed into this area and capture all the strategic points, make sure that Hezbollah will not be back. Hezbollah should accept staying behind the Litani River up in the north. And we need to see what are the international, let's say, guarantee that we will not face the same threat within few years from now. So I'm a bit optimist, and yet we need to think about the next step. And the next step is on the table, moving forward to take more villages and make sure that the area is clean from Hezbollah infrastructure, ammunition, and fighters. Syria is next online, mainly because Iran sees the results, understand that Hamas is not longer a player, Hezbollah paying very high price, and they need to think about the alternatives. And the alternatives are coming from both Syria and Iraq. In those two places, they have the Shiite militias. And if we can see the next Iranian step is using the Shiite militias in Iraq, push them to Jordan, shake the Jordanian kingdomhood, and trying to change the borderline between Jordan and Israel, as well as pushing Judah and Samaria to be more aggressive. Meaning the Iranians are using plan B. They don't have Hamas. They are losing Hezbollah. They are about to create a new wave coming from Iraq through Jordan in order to change the reality along the borderline between Jordan and Israel, something that concerns us very much. And we are taking decisions how to prepare against a threat like that. Yemen still on the table, very much affect the economy of Egypt, very much affect the Israeli economy. We teach them a lesson, but it's not enough. I believe that the Houthis will be much more aggressive by the next few days in order to show solidarity to the Iranians. And last but not least, Iran, after last Friday, study a lesson. Is this enough? The answer is no. But they need to reconsider what is their next step. We need to be prepared for another night like April 14th or the attack we had 25 days ago. Yes, we do have many friends around us, some of them even physically in Israel, the FAD system, and we are fully prepared to launch the concept we developed along the years to defend the region, not only the state of Israel, but also Jordan, Emirates, the Saudis, and other states that may pay the price because of the Iranian aggressiveness. The bottom line is that we do have limitations, ammunition, spare part, the reserves, the reservists, and some political limitation inside Israel and outside Israel that actually put many question marks on the options we have. And yet we are fighting, most of the time winning, and unfortunately from time to time need to pay very high price, mostly by the reserve units. Most of the units that are fighting now in Gaza or in Lebanon are reserve units. Great soldiers, left their houses, left their families, and call up to defend the flag. They do it, and the price, as I said, sometimes it's a very high price. The message I have for all of us, it's going to take time. We need to stay strong. Personally, I'm very happy that you're in our side. Very pleased for your support, and wish and pray for better days. I'm sure that by the end we will win. And from the strategic point of view, if you look into the Middle East, this is the first period which the Shiites are start losing. After many years that the Shiites are winning, first time the Shiites are starting to lose. Hamas is no longer a player. Hezbollah become weaker and weaker. Iran hopefully study the lesson, but all of that is not enough. Like the rest of the world, we are all waiting to see what will be in the United States after November 5th, and we shall see. Hopefully, the Western world will realize that Iran is the main source of problems, and together we will complete them to create a real change. Having said that, I know that Russia and China and North Korea, all of them behind Iran, so it's much above the state of Israel, and therefore we need the coalition concept in order to make sure that the right people are winning, and all that axis of evil are paying very high price and hopefully will be defeated soon.
General, thank you. If we could ask you a number of questions. You spoke about, for instance, in Lebanon, we have, of the 5 divisions there, many of the soldiers consist of reservists. And you also said that with the great strides that we're making in Lebanon, that the IDF is making, there still is a long ways to go. Can you describe geographically what areas the IDF really has taken control of, has, so to speak, removed the terrorists, removed the infrastructure? That's question number one. And question number two is the Lebanese armed forces that in potential could replace a UNIFIL, replace the Hezbollah south of the Litani River. To what extent can Israel, can the world rely on them, number one, to be fair, to be objective, to be moral, and to operate the way an army should operate, if assuming that Hezbollah is cleared of everywhere south of the Litani River?
Back to the first question, if you draw kind of a line along the borderline between Israel and Lebanon, and you mark all the villages are close to the border, this is the first step of the attack. The concept is to make sure that all those villages are not longer exist. We destroy most of it, and we probably destroy them by the next few days. To reach a point which those places are not longer threaten the state of Israel, upon the rule of engagement, anyone who will try to reach those areas, we will open fire, and by that we will take out of the table the direct threat into the Israeli villages along the borderline. Is this enough? The answer is no, because the rockets and the mortars are also a threat that can come from 10, 12, 20 kilometers, depend which type of rockets they are using. So we do have two options: to capture all the area, meaning to occupy 50% from Lebanon, or to look for kind of arrangements that it will be cut and clear that no one is allowed to use any type of ammunition against the state of Israel. And that may be connected into your second questions about the Lebanese military forces. Can they do it? The answer is yes. Do they understand that this is the last chance of the state of Lebanon to recover? We believe that the answer is yes. The overall atmosphere in Lebanon today is Hezbollah is a disaster. Hezbollah provide us the tragedy, all the prices we are paying, and this is probably the first chance we have since the 80s to take the responsibility and to try to bring Lebanon back to the Lebanese. Even Syria is part of that concept. Assad himself are taking actions against Hezbollah. He does not let them provide ammunition system from Syria to Lebanon. He's trying to make sure that that Hezbollah in Syria will not hide inside Syrian bases. So the overall atmosphere, led by the Saudis, and the Emirates, French, and others, is let's take the opportunity to change and create new reality in Lebanon. The Lebanese military forces is very important part of it. So can we rely on them? I'm not so sure, but we don't have many other choices. So we need to try. We need to try, give them the ability to control those strategic points, have very effective rule of engagement, have UNIFIL with more and more capabilities to control the area, and hopefully we will reach a new status in that piece of land for the next few years. Can we fix all the Middle East by that? The answer is no.
In terms of the Ka Valley, in terms of some of the neighborhoods in southern Lebanon, what kind of time frame do you see we'll need to take away their ability to send serious rockets deep into Israel?
One of the questions we need to put on the table is why Hezbollah at that stage is not launching hundreds of rockets every day. They launch sometimes 150, sometimes 200, but the numbers they could, we used to say it's 3,000 a day. And one of the questions, why don't they actually do it? Three different answers. Number one, we destroy some of their capabilities. Number two, the command and control system is not really functioning and nobody can really provide commands. And number three, they see that every time they trying to launch more rockets, we hit them harder. We are not willing to capture the Bekaa Valley. We're about to destroy as much as we can their infrastructure. The end state in that area is either an agreement within a few weeks or a very, very long war. The worst case scenario I have on my desk is multi-front for a long time. Meaning we are dealing with Gaza, with Lebanon, with others for many, many months. And this is the worst case scenario because we all know the difficulties by the economy, by the society, by ammunition, by spare parts, and so far and so on. So it's our interest to try to make it as short as we can, but it's not in our hand. We are only 50% from that equation.
You mentioned a very great concern, and that is the slow delivery of weapons coming from the United States, the lack of supplies, and the lack of stockpile. Would you like to elaborate on that condition?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not only from the United States. We do have difficulties for many, many states, and we are looking for spare parts all over the globe in states which you never think of as a source of supply for the state of Israel. We are facing a kind of an embargo, officially or non-officially. The fact is that slowdown of the ammunition and spare parts create limitations. And this is one of the reasons why we need to try to create that conflict as short as we can. What can be done? Hopefully convince the leaders all over the globe, including the United States, that this is not only the state of Israel war. This is a war between the goods and the bads. This is the war between those who believe by the human spirit and those who believe that the evil should win. It's not only a war between Judaism and Muslimhood. This is a war between those who believe that freedom is important. And as I said, we will win, but it will take time.
Would you like to elaborate upon what happened in Iran over the last day or so, in terms of the cooperation, in terms of the freedom of mobility of the Israeli Air Force, and in terms of strategically what was affected and what needs to be affected?
The understanding between us and our American friends are very simple. They will help us to defend the state of Israel, but in any offensive attack, they will observe. They will not participate physically, meaning you will not see Israeli F-16 flying next to American F-16 in order to destroy Iranian targets. This is the situation so far. It can be changed. It can be changed in case of Iran will cross the red lines, not only from the Israeli perspective, also from the American and the coalition forces perspective. Regarding Friday night, the cooperation was fully, meaning they understood what are the targets. We accept all the limitations. And I believe that we picked the right targets in order to launch the message. A, your air defense system is not longer relevant. That message was very important also for Russia, also for Syria. And I believe that all those states who are using the Russian equipment got kind of a wake-up call. You do have systems, but someone, the Israelis and the Americans, know how to take care of those systems. So number one, they don't have efficient air defense systems, and we're free to attack almost everywhere. Number two, all the family of long-range missiles is less effective. It will take you more, I can say months, up to 2-3 years before they will be able to produce new type of long-range missiles. By the way, in a way, it's open a bridge to China to start provide ammunition system to Iran. It's a bad news for all of us. But this is a side effect. When you destroy something, the other side is looking for alternative, and China can be a very good alternative, which will create a new challenges for all of us. Also North Korea. Yeah, North Korea has an embargo, but they study how to cheat the system and provide ammunition system. We saw some of it in Lebanon. We saw some of it in Gaza. And we know that they are trying to be involved in all those conflicts. And number three, the Iranian regime realized that we, the state of Israel, are not afraid to confront them. We are not afraid to use our Air Force, to use other dimensions, such as cyber, special forces, security agencies, in order to make sure that they will not be able to destroy the state of Israel. Yes, the nuclear is still on the table, and this is one of the challenges we all have for the next future.
From your perspective, if and when there is a next round, it will be easier in the aftermath. This paved the road, or this made it easier for future strikes against Iranian strategic locations.
The answer is yes. And I believe that the next family of targets will be regime locations in Tehran, as well as the oil industrial. And by destroying those two, the nuclear project will be less important, because if you don't have electricity, you cannot run that project. If you don't have money, you cannot run that project. If you don't have leaders who are looking for the results of that project is less important. But as I said, the challenges are ahead of us. And my personal assumption is that Iran will respond mainly by the Houthis, and we will get the dilemma: are we going to respond only against the Houthis, or also once again against Iran? That will be a dilemma on the Israeli leaders' decisions.
Is it fair to say, and this is speculation, that dilemma, the answer to that dilemma, is very different if you're looking at a Trump White House as opposed to if you're looking at a Harris White House? In terms of, it's a different dilemma, and the answers may be different.
I'm not so sure. Again, I don't have the crystal ball to say exactly what will be Trump policy or what will be Kamala Harris policy. I can look into the past and saying that Biden himself did a lot in order to protect us. He gave his generals the order, be prepared to attack Iran when it will be necessary. And I don't, as I said, I don't know what will be the Trump or Kamala Harris policy after they will take the chair in the White House by the beginning of January. For us, the Israelis, State of Israel, the Israeli security forces, we believe that whatsoever the United States will stay with us and support us to make sure that the excess of evil will not win. It's not only about Iran. You have to add into the story Russia, China, North Korea, Turkey, unfortunately, and therefore it's much, much wider and bigger than the conflict between us and the Iranians.
For the first time, we saw the United States forces actually taking offensive action against the Houthis, not just shooting down rockets that were sent either at shipping vessels at Israel, at other places, but being proactive. Can you describe the situation in Yemen? Because a number of times in this briefing, you've shared with us that it's very likely Iran will use the Houthis as a response, as a significant response to what happened over the last 2 days. How much of their infrastructure is still intact? And to what degree are their capabilities just as strong as they were a year ago?
The Houthis are still, in a way, strong players because they do have the Iranian capabilities and they don't really afraid from anyone. And this is an important point. Yemen is a failure state. All the players are very much concerned by the question, if you take the Houthis out of the game, who is going to run that state? The Houthis are controlling something like 30% from Yemen. And as I said, this is a failure state. The Saudis does not want to take responsibility. The Emirates does not want to take responsibility. Egypt did it in the past and they are not longer capable to do it. So the questions regarding Yemen is a bit wider than just who will beat the Houthis. Like in any other places, you ask yourself, and then what? What is the future of that state? And I believe that only a coalition of pragmatic Sunni states can take the decision to defeat the Houthis in order to rebuild Yemen as a modern state as much as they can. They have a lot of internal problems which we cannot solve. It is a conflict, exists many, many years, many casualties. And just to take the Houthis' military capabilities, it's not enough. Everybody take some of it, but the bottom line is that destroying the Houthis' military capabilities will not be enough in order to save Yemen, in order to show the Iranians that they are losing also in this piece of land, not only in Gaza, not only in Lebanon, but also in Yemen. The coalition forces, whenever they have the intelligence, sometimes provided by us, sometimes they get it by themselves, they are hitting the Houthis' military targets, and as I said, it's not enough. Therefore, we picked the port of Hodeidah as the main target twice, just to cut their finance capabilities, and by that to weakness the Houthis regime. Hopefully, all the other neighbor states will take the opportunity and create a bigger change in Yemen than just destroying the Houthis' military capability.
You've shared with us that this is a very complicated situation. It's taken 4 decades, maybe longer than 4 decades, for Iran to build up these 9 proxies. It's not something that you can remove in a year. It's a slow, it's a long process, and that we have to have determination and we have to have patience. What do you see looking forward? And this is a very difficult question we're asking you. What do you've shared with us what you'd like to see in Lebanon. What do you see potentially in Gaza moving forward?
I'll start with the beginning of your question. Yes, you're absolutely right. To change 40 years of legacy by the Iranians will not take a day. But it's like a domino cube phenomena, meaning once Hamas failed, and now Hezbollah is less effective, and if the Houthis will pay high price, and if the Iranians, Revolutionary Guards, will pay high price, maybe the Iranian regime himself will be removed by the people of Iran. Many of them believe that this is achievable. If you asked me a year ago, I would have said no chance. But today, when they see that all those proxies are paying very high price, and maybe the big project by Iran is not longer successful, they will have the courage and start taking actions in order to remove the regime. Hopefully, we all need to help them. Therefore, I've mentioned that next time we will hit a regime targets, just to give the people of Iran more and more support to take those actions. Regarding Gaza, this is an end state which I believe will have to be controlled for the next, let's say, 5 years by a combination of the Palestinian Authority, Sunni's pragmatic states, monitored by United States and some European states. Israel should not be part of it. Israel should keep the freedom of maneuver. Israel should keep the ability to open fire whenever we need to take any risks out of the table. But we need to let those players to recover Gaza. And like another chance to give the Gaza people a second chance to rebuild themselves as a normal society, as a normal state. Without that, it's going to be never-ending war between the people of Gaza and the state of Israel. I believe that the people of Gaza, many of them, are praying to the day which they can open a new page and start living without Hamas as a shadow above them. And you will not be able to reach that point if you will not provide an alternative meaning somebody else that provide money, somebody else that provide food, somebody else that will manage the recovery process. Because the picture from Gaza, trust me, I'm visiting there probably once a week. Gaza is not longer a place which people can live. And they deserve it. They did something unacceptable on October 7th. They support something unacceptable. They paid very, very high price. Is this enough? Not yet. But by the end, we prefer that Gaza will be recovered, managed by pragmatic Sunnis states, monitored by Western governments, and leave Israel with freedom of maneuver whenever we feel that something threatens us.
Thank you. One thing we learn from you each and every time you speak: complicated issues do not have simple answers. Complicated problems take time to solve. And it's the kind of situation that there are always variables moving. And what's the reality today is usually not the reality. Forget about next month, not even next week. We thank you for your thoughtfulness. We thank you for a life that you've dedicated to making Israel safe and to protecting not just Israel, but all of Western civilization. And we're very grateful to you as a mentor, as an educator, as a thought leader, when it comes to us appreciating the situation and appreciating the complexity of what it's like dealing with Iran and its 9 proxies and its 9-front war against the state of Israel. I want to wish you a Shavua Tov. This has been a very challenging day in Israel. On the other hand, I'd say that if we could look back over the last 6 weeks, we've seen some really miraculous events. We've seen a miraculous change of the situation in the Persian Gulf, in the Arabian Gulf and Middle East. And we all have reason to be optimistic, and we all have reason to look forward, not necessarily to a clear path, but to a better tomorrow. And much of that is a function of you and the decades you've spent creating that relationship between America and Israel and protecting Israel.
Stay strong. Thank you.
Thank you.